Hey everyone, welcome to take 2 of STS because now the microphone is set correctly and we can do this all over again.
All right, should we start from the beginning? Wow, you look cold today, Renee.
Ooh, it is so cold because November happened all of a sudden. And that is our pre-show banter. So should we get into the first thing that we're going to talk about today? All right. So today, first thing I want to talk about is what everyone is on everyone's mind in parkour potentially right now is Capst1.
Swarm.
It's also, by the way, it's Capst1. It's not a Capst1, as I just said.
Capst1. Mm-hmm. Capst1 Swarm is coming out in the end of November this month.
November 21st.
And I'm actually very excited about it. I'm curious, is this going to be a like behind a paywall?
Can my phone tell me the answer to that?
I don't think they've made it clear whether it's behind a paywall or not. All of the previous Capstones have not been behind a paywall. They've been free on YouTube. But they actually just did a premiere, a screening of the film in Brighton, and I think they're going to be having another one somewhere else, if I'm not mistaken. And so,
yeah, we have clothing and video November 21st, but nothing about
the actual whether it's behind a paywall. So the video is dropping on the 21st. They also are dropping a clothing line with it. So expectations for this one?
I have much higher expectations, and maybe I should tamper them a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the first.
If you were listening to a couple episodes ago, you should know. Just expect it to be a terrible film, and you'll really enjoy it when it comes out.
Let's if we go back to the first two. So Australia was a cool concept, but it wasn't my favorite video. It wasn't video of the year for me or anything. How did you feel about Australia?
Australia I liked a lot because there was no expectation prior to it. It was just this video's coming out. And then England came out, and I think I had a higher expectation for England, and it fell a little bit flatter for me. It was still a very good film, but I thought I liked the original Australia one better than England, personally.
So the first Capstone, I think I had high expectations actually because of the amount of images. They did a great job of promoting it in the parkour space. Because you see sometimes people just drop a video.
Yeah.
And that's it. And people don't, because if you're trying to play to the algorithm, which I don't think they really are so much. I imagine if they got more views on stuff, they'd be stoked. But it's really these videos are people that are within parkour. That's who it's directed for. And yeah, the first one was hyped up quite a bit. There were a lot of bangers, but I just felt like the edit kind of felt the music choice and stuff kind of fell flat, whereas it really picked up for England. And so I have the reverse sort of reaction, whereas Capstone England was had a much more hype track. I thought the intro was really cool with the rail slide and the people. The crowd reaction with Yanis, and then there were just some cool moves and and more memorable and more unique moves. Not as many some of the bigger I don't know, name. Okay, so here's a little exercise. Name big moments from Capstone Australia. So I got Kadori's weird drop.
Oh, the double drop, right?
Yeah, I got Dom's front. Kong front pre to the
box.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got is Justin Louey? So yeah, I'm getting that right. Okay. Justin Louey shinning.
Yep.
That's about all I remember.
and like a peel out.
Someone's
like,
gonna hate
there's,
me here. Oh, there was a cool thing, like they removed a rail for like Brody to do a Kong. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple other cool things that aren't like amazing standout moments, but definitely like Dom did a big dive roll, or like he did that side pre to the like where there's like a wall in his face.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
There's like
there's just not as many because I just didn't feel them as much. Whereas the England edit,
England's had even better athletes.
Yeah, that's what I was actually just gonna say too. Is like there's just more characters, and that's actually what characters, as we like to say.
Yeah.
I think that's actually what's gonna make Swarm even stronger. Is you look at the athlete list.
Yeah, it's strong.
Yeah,
and it's long. There's actually a lot of them.
Yeah,
and
when
I
you think
think.
About, yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, you think about like trying to make a video. Like anytime we go and try to vlog or something. If it's just me and you, it's like, oh crap, I have a lot of pressure to do stuff. And like, oh, I can't just do like one thing today and be done. But if you go out with like 10 guys
somebody's
to vlog,
gonna find something.
If everyone does it, there's at least one thing. You got 10 things in that vlog, and it's a vlog now, right?
Yeah.
So if they got a list of, I think it's like 15 or so athletes on there. So you know. If at least everyone did one banger,
then it's a good video already. Yeah, but I'm sure they're doing more than that. So yeah, like a good amount of store is involved with Swarm, both as athletes and also like Toby's on the edit.
Yeah.
Again, like we've got Tim Champion like joining the mix, Brody Pawson,
which is a weird
Dylan Pawson, the twin brother.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tim's a weird fit for Capstone because I remember who was doing this talk. Was it Motus or was it Height Drop that was doing? They were trying to cast like an American Capstone, like who would be on it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what podcast that was on?
I don't know. It might have been Store actually. It's one of the three other podcasts.
For real. But yeah, it's they're kind of landing on different names there, and it was all kind of around this like big jumpers, people to take impact, people to do, and like Tim's a big jumper, but he's also just more into like techniques, more technical challenges, not necessarily like send. He can do send challenges, but he also, if he's going to do a send challenge, he's likely to stick the landing.
Well, yeah, so we were talking about this before, but there's like Capstone has built a brand around their identity as being a send video concept. It's like you're not going to see the clean stick. You're not going to see actually a ton of clean movement. You're going to see some like big sends, like some like potentially some bails. Maybe there's like maybe somebody stomping something like a height drop or something, but they're not necessarily doing it like well. They're just taking the impact, and so I don't know. Like it's actually a really unique concept for all these videos because I mean the whole brand is around Capstone, like the pinnacle movement, the pinnacle of our sport of like. We train all these like control things at ground level, but Capstone is where you really apply like your biggest, most sendy stuff. And I think that's a really interesting branding to it. I also wonder is like, you can look at the other Capstones, like, is this where we want parkour to go? Is the direction of big sends only?
Well, I think it's definitely helpful in that to inspire the push, and it actually makes me think of like two recent events. So one is me not doing the jump the other week, where it's like I actually was thinking like, oh, maybe I should have just watched like a whole bunch of Capstone and some of those athletes, just watching athletes actually achieve like bigger things to try to like basically absorb some of that, because I think it is helpful sometimes. And it's another thing, on the topic of fear that we can.
Well, it's also because you were trying to do a big cat leap.
Yeah, and it's very specific to...
You could watch a bunch of other guys doing big cat leaps, or potentially just trying and failing it and being okay afterwards.
Yeah, definitely helps. But then it reminded me of that kid Cam that came into the gym a couple weeks ago, and that's actually like how I kind of justified it. It was, we had this kid that came in, and he's like 13 now, and he hasn't done parkour in a while, and he's a sendy kid. Like we have like this 6-foot wall that he like dropped off of on his scooter just like a couple years ago, just for, just because he could. And he's like, you see him and he's got like scrapes and scars all over his shins, and his movement isn't super polished, but he has done classes multiple times here. But anyways, we have this Tricks for Treats event we're doing, and he decides like mid-run, he just starts looking at the end of our runway at what we call like the little purple wall. Little Purple is a 6-foot high wall, and it is 12 feet away from the runway. And he sent a cat leap at it. And
this is level too.
This
it's
is
like
at
the
least,
same level.
Mind you, up until this point, I think Cam has probably only done a 6-foot cat leap.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm pretty sure he'd only done a 6-foot cat leap. So he hits the wall, and one of the problems with some of the gym walls, and you probably find this in other gyms with painted walls, is your feet stick to it more. And so he did jack up his ankle. Like I had to wrap his ankle for him after it. Like he couldn't walk on it. But like he didn't like peel out or anything. He just hit it, and probably hit it too much on one foot, just not doing smaller ones before and understanding the impact. And I thought about it, and I was like, I wonder if, because I know he's the type of kid that would watch like Dom's videos and stuff like that. Maybe not his vlogs, but like definitely his Instagram. And he's the type of kid that just maybe would absorb a lot of this content where it's just people sending big jumps and think like, oh, that's just all you got to do, Because he's probably looking at it like, well, this isn't a stick. I just have to make it to the wall, and he did. He made it. It didn't. I don't think he thought about how it would feel when he got there.
Yeah. But he just doesn't have the level of experience and understanding of technique to manage that well. And he also just hasn't been doing parkour for the last like a while now. So, yeah, I mean, I was like really torn on how to feel about it. It was like, on the one hand, I was like, whoa, that was such a crazy send. And a lot of people were thinking that. But on the other hand, it was like, this kid should not have been doing this. Like, really definitely should not have been doing this. And in fact, like if I had known sooner that he was going to try this, I would have tried to talk him out of it.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, and it's kind of like a fine balance, right? And I don't expect people who are involved in Capstone to modify what they're doing with the expectation that they're going to be influencing other people and kids, because this is Capstone. This is the highest level of a lot of parkour experience. But it's like, should we be, actively, rewarding it as much as we do in our culture, right?
Well, it's split in parkour culture, right? Like there's some people that aren't into it, and it's fine. Like if it's not for you, it's not for you. I like to see how far people can push things, particularly like push like their will to try things, because it is, I think, one thing that the Capstone style of videos and sort of like the types of athletes that are inspired from it have started to maybe train and make posts and stuff in ways that they weren't before. It's kind of pushed this idea that like we still don't really know how far like some of these jumps and techniques can actually be pushed or be applied, right? I think the drop thing is getting a little played out, or was, played out for a while. But, in terms of like, yeah, like what is actually the biggest running pre that someone could do? We know about like the Olympics. We know about how far someone can do like a running jump into sand and land on their butt. We don't know how far someone can jump, and then if there's like a drop to like another roof or a wall, and if they've trained to be able to deal with the forces upon landing in one way or another, there's still quite a bit of unknown. The other side of it, I guess, is like, someone gets seriously hurt, but I think...
Which does happen in Capstone.
Yeah.
In Swarm, Hazel falls from a significant height onto her side basically and dislocated her elbow, and so she's been recovering for the last few months.
I guess one could argue though that that's not really like what I was talking about with like just like bigger distances and stuff. Like she was doing an ascent drop, true. But it is challenging like heights, and it she was basically, it appears from the trailer, was doing like 2 drops.
Yeah.
And missed on one.
On the first one. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's pretty incredible to see her going for that, but at the same time, it's like, well.
But it also doesn't seem like she regrets it, you know, in terms of the experience. She seems to be handling her recovery well and everything. So, like, at the end of the day, it's like, we talked about this last week, where it's like, you know, parkour, when you start doing it at a higher level, it does really become, even at an earlier level too, but particularly the more you do it, it is a risk endeavor. Like, you're pursuing risk.
Yeah, but you don't, like, even people who get to a high level of movement don't necessarily go to the extreme of risk, right? They don't go to the capstone level, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, you could train really advanced things at ground level and like get really good at that. So
that has its own sort of risks. I like, again, the better you try to get at something, like, it always has inherent risks. Like, there's risks to being a long jumper. Like, there is just the training that goes into it. If you're trying to like break a world record, there's risks into like that volume and intensity of training that goes into being the best at something. So,
but it's different. It's like a different level of risk. So like, okay, so like based on what a lot of, like, I'll throw out some names, Matt McCreary is doing really dance-like, innovative kind of movement at mostly ground level. He's not taking the same level of, I mean, he's of course he's negotiating risk during his practice, but he's not dealing with impact or things at the same level of like somebody like Kadori or Dom.
Mm-hmm. I think though, one thing I know you brought up that as an example, but I wouldn't like categorize Matt McCreary as like trying to be the best or even the best him. I think he's more on the path of like expression and creativity versus, but that's like
part of being the best of.
But here's like, I don't know, like, well, like, what about someone like an Ellis Torhall? Because that's like
different path.
Yeah, it's different path. It's not exactly ground level, but like he's trying to develop like the hardest flips and tricks that can be done. He probably does roof gaps. He's probably done them. It just is not something that like stands up in my mind when I think of Ellis Torhall as like, you know, doing like a big gap at height or something isn't really something that stands out, but like he probably can. He probably has.
Well, it's just like Ellis Torhall trains specifically for competition lines and runs, right? And moves around that. Matt McCreary is doing things that are difficult for him and and doing things that like other people maybe have never tried before. So he's kind of innovating in his own space, but he's not doing things in a way that's necessarily the best runs for competition. He's also not doing things at height or dealing with consequences for like a video part like Capstone either. So he still is negotiating risk, but potentially to a lower degree than even Ellis or
I think another
Dom.
example you could bring in is talk about him all the time, but Daryl Stingley is an example of someone who's like pushing himself to be the best, but not taking on or not pursuing, I should say, like this, like choosing not to pursue the same types of risks. And a lot of times it's just because of like what you're naturally good at too. Like I know from speaking to him, like he's scared of heights. And like I'm scared of heights. A lot of people are scared of heights. Some people can, you know, overcome that to a degree, or some of them just start with like some people start with more of a deficit. Like some people start like, you know, in something like parkour, being like absolutely terrified of heights. I can't even stand on top of something high, versus some people could get into parkour being like, I'm totally comfortable standing on top of stuff high. So like starting to do jumps and things up high is like much easier from that starting point. So I think a lot of it comes down to choice as to like why someone is pursuing being the best in one context and one is the other. Clearly for someone like Dom or Sam Carter, whatever, it's like it doesn't seem like, you know, the idea of impact doesn't seem to be a deterrent. The idea of height doesn't seem to be a deterrent. And so they pursue that and probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas those things could be deterrents for someone else, and they could pursue excellence by some other means.
Yeah.
We kind of got way off on a tangent here, away from the original topic of Capstone. But
I kind of want to go back to the trailer.
Yeah. Please do.
The trailer is amazing. Like this was the best trailer. Like I'll just say it's the best trailer I've ever seen for a parkour video.
Can I just that shot, the billboard, the
rotating billboard?
It's like, because I left a comment on the I think on the Instagram post, like that is you can't tell. I cannot think of one thing that has had a bigger reaction from me in parkour that I've seen than that. And the final product, I don't know, maybe seeing the drop out of it, because I'm actually curious. Do they land on that ledge and then drop into a slide? Like what happens? Like we don't actually know yet. And it just looks like an action movie. It looks like something that you would see. Like I remember Storr did that Michael Bay film, and it looks like something that belongs in that. Like you just have like a bunch of guys and they're like about to like infiltrate a building, and that's the starting point, and they're just like friggin' ninjas. And I was like, damn, like you guys thought of this. You filmed it with a drone. Like you did all the things, and it's just absolutely insane.
It's beautiful. And I mean, there's a number of other shots in the trailer that are like teases of what's happening that just like they look super cinematic and like really incredible.
Yeah. Another one we pointed out was like the run up. I think is it Brody who's doing?
I don't know who it is.
So it's a far drone shot, and you just see like this super long run up into what looks like I guess like an overpass bridge or something. And it's just like, I was like, oh man, like you guys are just doing this so well, like so right, because that's what I want to see. I don't even want to see like the takeoff. Just like that run buildup is like so nice there. There almost could have been less in this trailer. Like I think there's like a couple. I think it actually is a bit long.
Perfect. I like it. I love it.
Well, like it's the idea of like keeping people wanting more, and it's like I think it's like with movies. You show too much of the movie, and then you've seen it.
They succeeded. I want to see more.
Yeah,
I have to see it now.
But I wonder if the final. See, I'm going to go with low expectations now, because I wonder if the final is going to feel, because I got it was a lot of impact for me like watching the trailer, and I wonder if I'm going to have the same impact watching the final piece. Yeah. Now that I kind of know what's about to happen, but maybe I don't.
But for a lot of it, you don't.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. So.
It looks incredible. Anyway, I highly recommend checking out the trailer.
Yeah. That was actually a problem for me for just going back to the England one. I felt like they gave away too much with photos and videos beforehand that I knew it was going to happen in the main thing, and it took away a bit. I would have much preferred. It's almost like, you know, when people say like, oh, I don't watch movie trailers anymore, I just go see the film. I wonder if that's going to become a thing in like parkour films like later on. Where
maybe.
It's like, I don't want to watch the trailer because they keep showing all the jumps.
Well, a lot of the problem with like movie trailers too is that they almost sell it one way, and then you watch the movie and it's like they went a totally different direction, but they did it like they made it this sexy trailer that would attract a certain type of audience, and then when you watch it, you're like, this was not for me. But I don't think that's necessarily the case for a parkour video, but I do understand where you're coming from.
There's one more thing I want to talk about with involving Capstone, which has just been a bit different for me as a viewer and someone who has been viewing parkour for almost 20 years now. Justin Louey always seems to have a cigarette in his mouth.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? As a viewer. You're allowed to feel however you want as a viewer, by the way.
Yeah. So this, it kind of, I don't know. It kind of blows my mind when I see people like under the age of like 40, like smoking.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know, like there's been a very successful campaign against cigarette smoking in general, to the point where it's like I have no desire to smoke a cigarette. Like there's like, anyway. So that is first of all is weird. But I was actually I was in Italy like last month, and a lot of people smoke cigarettes there. And it was the same experience. It was like so weird seeing like how common it is for people to be smoking cigarettes, and you're sitting on a patio next to a table, somebody else smoking cigarette, and you're just like inhaling secondhand smoke, and it's like, how is this like normalized here? Because in North America, it's not normal anymore.
I think it's just a weird juxtaposition for like, okay, you're like pushing your body in one aspect, and you even got guys like Dom right now who are posting like clips of him doing like what he says like necessary measures, like working out basically to stay in shape, because you know he's doing all these crazy things, or crazy to most people, and yeah, it's just weird for some, because it's extremely unhealthy. Like it doesn't. Yeah. It's not helping. It's not helping. Like it's not helping.
But you can
anything
argue
that he's doing.
That so is a massive jump to your shins.
Yeah, but he didn't intend to land on his shins. But it's like, and, you know, it's you know, people's body, people's choice, whatever.
Yeah.
I get it, and I think it is part of like the. Kind of, because he I'm assuming is one of the masterminds behind Capst1.
Yeah.
And Capst1, we talked about the brand, about being like kind of some of the things in parkour it represents, but it's also very like counterculture.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of that side of parkour, where it's like parkour is about rebellion, and you know, the I guess largely the government has, you know, put on this campaign and propaganda to end smoking. Yeah. A lot of that is actually all of it is government, and so like, you know, him smoking is just kind of like part of maybe what parkour means.
I see what you're saying there, and yeah, I agree. It's like kind of in a sense, I'm fine with him doing it. I don't really care. I think it's weird. Like, I think it's weird. It's kind of stupid to smoke cigarettes, but like, okay, if like that's what you want to do, like, yeah. Be yourself.
It feels like a weird. Sorry, it feels like a weird flex to me, because there was like, not in Swarm, but in like their B-sides video, there's like a shot of him with probably a cigarette. I don't think it was a joint. Even if it's a joint, it's not like it like in his mouth and then does a jump. And it's just like, I get it, you probably see that in skating all the time. I'm sure you do. I don't watch a lot of skate videos, but I'm sure it's all the time. It's just a weird thing to see in parkour. And I haven't really seen anyone comment on it. He was also like smoking at the premiere. Like there was like a premiere clip, and
I want to talk
smoking inside.
I want to talk about like what it was like in parkour like 12 years ago.
Yeah, this would have been like a big friggin' deal. Like everyone would be talking about it. They'd be like basically the equivalent of like cancel Justin.
Well, it was to the point where it's like people were like against Art of Motion because it was affiliated with Red Bull, and Red Bull is not a healthy drink.
Yeah.
You know, so people would be like, oh, like Red Bull, we shouldn't be supporting this event because Red Bull isn't healthy, and parkour is all about health. But actually, one thing that I was taking a physiology course in school, sports physiology, and it was basically, one thing that really stood out to me was my professor said, sport is not necessarily equivalent to health.
No,
like you think of athletes as being healthy because they're physically active and they have these potentially like impressive physiques, and they're doing impressive things like physically, but they're not necessarily the healthiest people in the world because there's wear and tear that happens on their bodies for a variety of reasons. Or maybe as a defensive lineman, you have to be kind of like fat, like you have to be like obese potentially just to like, you know, have enough weight to push around to like block the quarterback, you know, whatever. So like there's things about being an athlete that are not necessarily healthy. And so for him to make a decision that I'm going to smoke cigarettes, I don't like. I do still think it's kind of a stupid act. I don't really believe in smoking cigarettes, and I don't think he looks cool doing it. But if that's who he wants to be, like, that's fine. I'm not gonna also pretend that I don't have. I'm not gonna pretend that I have the healthiest lifestyle out there either, right? Like,
I used to like essentially be lying to myself. Like I think when I started parkour, and as short as like I don't know 6 years ago or something, I thought like everything I was doing was like equivalent to health, even though I was like grinding all the time and like training to like get as much out of my body as I could, and like training through injuries and training and just all of that. Which, someone listening to this might be like, well, I don't do that, so therefore I'm still being healthy. And it's like, well, good for you, man. But like, yeah, I've just kind of come to like peace with it, where it's like, no, I've definitely taken not like years off my life, but like time off of, I don't know, enjoyable joints, I guess, like from some of my like previous behaviors and current behaviors too. We talked about like we were going to work out today, and it was just like, yeah, like working out is damage. Like that's what lifting weights is. Like you're creating damage, and then you're adapting from that damage. That's what doing jumps is. That's what doing like repeated jumps is. Like you actually need to, if you do plyometric exercises, you're doing repeated damage to produce an adaptation so that you can jump further. But there is a cost to the damage eventually. Particularly the longer you train and the harder you train for. So I'm kind of glad that parkour isn't making a big fuss about it, and well, I think there is a bit of a fuss being made about Capstone in general, but it's kind of just been like it's been gotten over. Like no, I don't hear it as much anymore. I don't see it.
I think the vast majority of people who are in parkour culture are in support of Capstone.
Yeah,
and
it's a minority, a small minority that's like it's not for me, and it's like, okay, cool, it's not for you. But I'm kind of glad that parkour is moving away from like parkour is like a healthy endeavor, or like equals health. It can be healthy in so many ways to do it, but in terms of like that's the goal of parkour, or that's like why you should be doing parkour. CrossFit had a similar change recently, where like they accepted Monster Energy to be a sponsor, and that wouldn't have existed in CrossFit a long time ago. But it's like you look at the top people in CrossFit, and like these people are like definitely taking years off their life and abusing their bodies so that they can be like the fittest on earth.
It's a bold title there.
Yeah.
Should we talk about...
We should move on to the next topic before we keep going off.
So we wanted to talk about another film that's going to be coming out. I think it's actually the day after.
I'm not going to check.
November 22nd.
I think I should check here.
Let's double check here. But this is Hazel, which is a film by... Well, I guess it's being released through the Motus projects, but it's an athlete named Ethan Rudd, and... filmed by, and I guess edited by...
It's actually November 11th.
November 11th. Oof, I was wrong. So November 11th.
So that is... Because this is going to come out before then. That is this Friday.
Ooh. It's coming out Friday.
Yeah.
And so it was filmed by Noah Heath, North Street Boogie. Mm-hmm. And it's actually behind a paywall. It's a 10-minute film, and it's going to cost about $5 US. And it's going to also come with like they're calling it like a trial and error kind of like raw edit of like 19 minutes. So it's just going to be probably just like failed attempts and potentially bails and things like that in it. Yeah, thoughts on this one? We just watched the trailer before filming this. So.
Yeah. So, well, I had watched it before. We were watching it again. Like, we watched both again. But it's like, it's such a different feeling from Capstone. Because Capstone, you have, well, different uses of cinema, for sure. Like, if we want to talk about it from that standpoint. You have Capstone on one hand, where I don't even know why I'm comparing them both, but it is like, what we decided to talk about.
Well, they're both coming
today.
Out soon, and they're both notable films that are coming out in the community.
Yeah. So we just kind of shift gears down to this thing where we're talking about these big shots and big things to more of like an art piece that, if I'm being totally honest, I don't really get. yet. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to enjoy it and not going to view it. It's just I don't get what it is first. Like you had to tell me to like read the caption to understand what it was about, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. But I didn't like the trailer. I'm hyped on it because people have told me how good it is, and they're people that I trust and that I know it's going to deliver. But the trailer under-delivered, and I think the biggest reason for me was actually because of the lack of frames on certain shots. So I was expecting, because there's like this photo that Noah posted at some point of midway through a gainer that Ethan's doing, and it looks absurd. Like the photo looks absurd. I'm like, he's gainering, like that's a gap he's gainering over the stair set. But on the trailer, it happens at the beginning, and I didn't even notice the first time I watched it. And I don't think you should have to rewatch trailers to find stuff. If a trailer didn't hype you up the first time, why would you watch it again? I'm watching it to do kind of like due diligence for this, but I didn't even notice it was in it until I watched it again, and then I saw it at the beginning, but they cut it so quickly. And then same with like, there's like a roll he does before that, and you kind of see what he's about to land on, but then you don't. I needed like 2 or 3 more frames of like those slow-mos, and that would have been enough. Just a little edit adjustment. It's one of those things where like someone could go in really quick and be like, I fixed the trailer for Hazel because I threw in a bit more there. And it was kind of the same throughout the trailer for me, where I just felt like they were doing the right thing of not showing like the full completed moves, but they weren't showing quite enough frames. And it's, I guess, just, I don't know if anyone part of that project is going to watch this, but I would say like that's the constructive criticism I would give for the next time you do something like this, is just a couple more frames, just so people get a better idea of what they're about to see, and then do your cuts.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the film because I feel like I haven't seen enough from Ethan, and
True.
The first time I ever heard of him was when he was brought onto the Motus projects.
Me too,
I was like,
yeah.
who is this kid? And I was like, oh, he's an American kid. That's interesting. So then I started following him and I started watching his stuff, and it was blown away how good he is. So he has such a cool style, and he's a good mix of like traditional parkour and like really interesting flip style. So I'm very interested in watching this film. Dylan told us it was really awesome, so I'm like excited about it. I do agree about the trailer, though. The trailer definitely fell kind of flat for me, even though like if you go back and you kind of like look at each like clip that are in the trailer, you're like, you can kind of break it down. You're like, oh, that looks like it's gonna be cool. Oh, that looks like it's gonna be cool, but it didn't pull me in the way that the Capst1 trailer did. So. And it's really easy to compare the two, right? Because they're both.
It's not easy. They're totally different.
Well, I think, but that's what I mean. It's easy to compare how each of them make you feel. Like you have Capst1 where because they were both released around the same time. The trailer, Capst1 trailer is like hype the whole time through, and you're just like, I can't wait to watch this. Now I have to see this. And then Hazel is just like, I already know I'm hyped about it, but then I watch it and I was like, okay, like it just didn't hit the same way. So I'm hoping that the full film is going to be come together really, really well, and I'm going to be more excited about it. But yeah, I would say the trailer fell flat for me. But I did see like a couple, like there's the picture that you mentioned of the gainer. There was also like a couple other pictures that I saw that Noah posted that look awesome, like really interesting.
But I guess I missed it because like I didn't know they were like part of the project.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because I can see this a lot being intentional, that maybe they're not trying to. I think it's like age related too. I can see they're both like young men, and it's like the idea of like putting something out there to sell it and promote it as an artist is always tough to kind of get over that. But at the end of the day, it's like, do you want more people seeing your thing or not? And so you do have to play a game a bit, or play the game to get people hyped on it into this product.
Well, it's part of like being your art is, you want to make sure that it represents the way like your thoughts and experiences and emotions in the way that is authentic. But if you want lots of people to watch it and see it, you also have to cater it to the audience as well. So that's always an interesting balance. And that's the thing. I mean, you and I are looking at this as guys in our mid-30s who came from an era of like, you know, we didn't always have smartphones in our pocket that filmed in 4K, you know, and so when we have new technology, we're like excited to like have like the best cinematic like shots and things like that. But then a lot of like there's this trend that's happening, and I feel like amongst the younger generations in parkour that are like, oh, let's film on a camera from the 90s that's like looks grainy and crappy just so it has a certain aesthetic that makes it cool, you know? And it's like, you weren't even alive during that time, you know?
Well, I mean, in my, like, because when I was like, when I was in film school, it was like the idea of like Super 8 cameras. Where you're just filming in black and white with this thing like... Yeah, exactly. But it's like somebody from that generation would be like, why are you filming on that? Like, why wouldn't you film on like the new technology? My mom would be like, I had one of those.
Yeah. So, but I guess what I'm trying to say though is like, we don't necessarily, like, I don't think I'm going to necessarily get somebody's art who's from like generations that are younger than me, you know? I might be able to relate on some level, and obviously I can relate on the parkour level, but
one of the comparisons,
but I'm a different person than a lot of these younger kids, I guess what I'm saying.
One of the comparisons I made too is on the trailer views. So like Capst1's trailer has over 20K views right now. Again, bunch of different athletes, probably a bunch more money and stuff that went into it.
Also potentially promoted by like Storer and other huge athletes.
The Storer rub is really, it really injects views into something. But like Motus has a lot more actual subscribers. This has like 1.8K views on the trailer from last I checked. And you know, some comments where people are hyped, but I just wonder how much better it could have done if the trailer was just a bit more stronger. So like if the idea for the trailer is that this is like a serious piece and there are some feelings with it, like it's not just about the parkour, I didn't get that out of the trailer. Like I said, you had to tell me, and I had to like read the description to get that. And so I think there could have been just a better way to convey that through the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I agree here. It's it's tricky though. Like I don't know if they've actually done a piece before like this to this extent. So I wonder if they even have that much experience. Like I know Noah's like very artistic guy. Like you go on his Instagram and it's like a bunch of just like really cool looking photos, and I just wonder how much experience he does actually have creating like a parkour film piece.
Yeah. So the hardest thing about art is it's extremely difficult to sell, and it can sell to masses, like people can love it, or you know, you could feel and be renowned by many as being like producing the greatest things, and no one sees it. And it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing as an artist too, to like, again, want to take that step to be like, okay, maybe I need to compromise a bit with my audience to make it something that they want to see.
So I went to like this Van Gogh exhibit, and I was like, you know, going through it, and I was reading about it, and it's like, oh, he died poor.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until after he died that his like paintings sold for millions. And so it's like, damn, like, you know, art is so like finicky like that, right? Like you might never get the recognition that you potentially deserve in your lifetime, but then like years, decades later, you might actually finally get like people like years or decades after your death, people start to finally be like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. You know, like this is worth millions of dollars here. Very interesting the way art works. But I think ultimately what I hope is that like whatever they produce, they're authentic to themselves, and they are happy with the end result, regardless of how successful it might be, right?
Yeah, no, and that's I think because I get it too. Like I've been, like I said, I was art school kid, and so like there's things I would make that would be uncompromising. Because people, as you get older, and you start to want to make a living of something, the compromises you make are basically trying to make people realize the value in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes that.
And that's marketing.
That's marketing, and that's making a trailer.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that was a pretty good talk today, I think.
Yeah.
I think we should cut it there. Thank you for tuning in. Please leave us a comment if you can think of something we should talk about next week, because we are doing these every single week now. And hopefully we got an idea for next. We'll figure something out. It'll be good. But thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Leave us a like. And we'll catch you in the next one.